Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from the beginning of guidance, and we were done reading about the tongue, and inshallah today we will read about the stomach and the private parts, which is pretty much about protection, preservation, staying away from the context that leads to sin. But even as in the case of the that which is halal, still one has to be careful not to go into excess. As for the stomach, protected from eating forbidden, protected from eating the forbidden and even the doubtful, and strive to seek out the lawful. Once you have obtained what is lawful, try not to eat repletion, for indeed satiety hardens the heart, ruins the intellect, hinders one's ability to memorize, makes one indolent in worship and seeking knowledge, strengthens one's carnal appetites, and gives assistance to the soldiers of Satan. So if satiety from the lawful is the source of every vice, what then of satiety from that which is unlawful? We know that scientifically today that once you eat, blood will a part of your blood will go to the digestive system, and this is why one might feel a bit lazy, and if you do not heed the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, which is 1/3 for food, 1/3 for drinking, and 1/3 remains empty, so that you'll be able to breathe. And in fact, if you fill the stomach and maybe even beyond, as they might say, you'll have hard time in terms of performing your duties. And I think it's from experience, people know that if they once they break fast during Ramadan, if they eat too much, they might not be able to go and pray the Salat al-Isha in congregation and then the Taraweeh. They might be tempted to simply sit, lay down, whatever is the case, because of the quantity of food. So there is one part about the cognitive ability, the ability to understand, the ability to memorize. All this will be definitely suffer. Same thing applies to worship. And then there's another aspect of this paragraph about strengthening one's carnal appetites. The Prophet ﷺ, when he addressed the young men, يا معشر الشباب ما استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج. O young men, or young men, he who can afford to get married, he should. The fiqh part about whether marriage is an obligation or not, that's a different story. But for the average young man, most people would need to get married. Now, for those who cannot afford to get married, فمن لم يستطع فعليه بالصوم فإنه له وجاء. Those who cannot afford to, then he who cannot afford to, he should fast, like abstinence from uh, food and drink, psalm from dawn until sunset, without really making up for the missed meal, as Imam Al-Ghazali explains. This is about weakening the carnal appetites. That's a line of defense. So, having stated consuming that which is halal is problematic. Mind you, the haram, as Imam Ghazali explains. Seeking out the lawful is obligatory on every Muslim. This is fard, ayn. Engaging in worship and seeking knowledge with unlawful nourishment is like building on a garbage heap. If you are content with only one rough shirt for the whole year, and just two coarse loaves of flat bread a day, this is in Arabic in the text al-khushkar, and here in English al-khushkar uh, definitely we talk about whole wheat because they never knew the white flour. That's really out of the question. So it must be whole wheat. That's first thing. And obviously the branny husk was still there, so it was not sifted. It was not clean from that perspective. So we should have that image of the of the bran, the branny husk, if one might. So there's the kernel and the grain and the wheat grain, but outside you have the bran with details. But the bottom line is that it's not a fine bread. So if this is enough for you, the two coarse loaves of bread a day, while giving up the pleasure of enjoying the best of condiments and seasoning. So the bread will be without any dip. Then you will not be short of what is lawful, in an amount that will suffice you, since what is lawful is plentiful. Most things are lawful. Most. Think about it. In principle, uh, eating pork is haram. Beef is halal. Chicken is halal. Mutton is halal. Fish is halal. Vegan, vegetarian, Vegetarian. I mean, if you, but the idea is that think about all the possibilities that are out there, but there's something that is haram. The alcohol is haram. We're not going to talk about, the um, al Khaba'ith, the mother of all evil, the mother of all. But one drink is haram, and think about all the drinks, the infused teas, herbal teas, and juices, and that which is halal is definitely vast. But there's that which is haram and is for your own benefit. Alhamdulillah, this is really, it is haram, but and it is something beautiful in a typical Muslim family. You know, you don't lose your mind worrying about your kids coming back, returning home from parties drunk, fearing that whether they will drive while intoxicated. All these things that happen in many countries. That doesn't mean that there are no individual Muslims who do these things, but the idea is that in general, Muslims, as a non-Muslim, well-educated lawyer from the United States, he told me he writes about Andalusia. And he writes positively about uh, the convivencia, which is really it's an Islamic paradigm. And he said there was he said it in this fashion: there was someone who long time ago got rid of this problem of alcohol, meaning that it's the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Of course, it is wahi. This sharia, this law is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not your responsibility to attain certainty about obscure matters with regard to lawfulness, but you are obliged to guard against what you know to be unlawful, or what you reasonably suspect to be, based on a clear indication that is associated to the wealth. As for what is known to be unlawful, it is clear and plain, and that which is suspected to be unlawful, for some reason, includes the wealth of a ruler and his government officials, the wealth of one who has no income except from sources such as professional mourning. They This is in the pre-Islamic period. Uh, there were ladies who would be hired to cry for the dead and maybe hit their faces, maybe do other things. The sale of alcohol, usurious transactions, what is in general called interest, or the playing of flutes, such that you know with certainty that most of his wealth is unlawful. Playing flutes, I think the There's no qualification of the Arabic in terms of playing the flute. Maybe selling, because before that we have بيع الخمر أو الربا أو المزامير. الله أعلم. In both cases. Such that you know with certainty that most of his wealth is unlawful. Therefore, whatever wealth you acquire from such people, even if there is a possibility that it might be from a lawful portion, is still considered unlawful due to the greater likelihood of its being unlawful. Another completely unlawful source of wealth is that which is taken from religious endowments without being in accordance with its stipulations. Because think about shart al-waqif, like what were the conditions for establishing the endowment, endowing whatever. You should fulfill the conditions in order to qualify. Imam Ghazali says, rahimahullah. So any wealth taken from a law school, for example, by one not training to become a jurist is completely unlawful. Likewise, wealth taken in the name of Sufism from an endowment or other charity established to support Sufis by one who has committed a crime severe enough for his testimony before a court to be rendered illegitimate is also unlawful. And committed a crime, ارتكب معصية. Let's use the word sin. So if people would know that you have committed the sin, they would reject your testimony. If that is the case, even without people knowing that, what you take from the waqf for the Sufis or from other sources without being a Sufi, then it is unlawful. We have mentioned sources of doubtful, lawful, and unlawful income in one of the chapters of the Revival of the Religious Sciences, Ihya Ulumuddin, which you should consult. For indeed, knowledge of lawful sources of income and seeking them out is obligatory on every Muslim, just as praying the five prayers is. As for the private part, guard it from everything that Allah Most High has forbidden, and be like those whom Allah blessed and Most High has said, والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين. And those who guard their private parts except from their spouses or from those whom their right hands possess. For in that case they are not blameworthy. And you will not be successful in guarding the private part except by guarding the eye from looking, the heart from contemplating, and the stomach from doubtful food, and from satiety. For these things steer one's desires, and are the places where their seeds are sown. They are referring to the desires, to the lust. As for the hands, do not use them to strike a Muslim. And this should be a reminder to anyone who tortures Muslims, be it a civilian who tortures or an official meaning uh, a policeman, jailer, whatever. Be careful. The Prophet ﷺ prohibited slapping animals on their faces. The Prophet ﷺ prohibited cursing animals. The Prophet ﷺ cared about the psychology of animals. Again, as for the hands, do not use them to strike a Muslim. But of course, there has to be a context for this. A Muslim who chooses to smuggle drugs across border and carries arms and probably even heavy uh, machine guns or other things and attacks uh, border guards and what have you. It's not now about his Islam. You talk now about uh, protecting the society at large. It's your job to defend the borders and the society, the state, if you will. But if you talk about an innocent person, then it's definitely it's a sin to strike a Muslim. And in fact, it's equally important to mention even non-Muslims who are part and parcel of the society. Uh, we used to call them Ahlul Dhimma, Dhimmatullahi wa Rasuluh. I know that today they might not like the category, but it's not about the uh, let's basically speak about what it is today. We talk about citizenship, and not only this, also any foreigner who receives a visa to come to your country, your embassy overseas or in whatever land gave the visa on your behalf. The state goes into a contract with that foreigner, and it's not an invitation to bring people to visit, tourism, business, whatever, maybe to study, and then they will receive harm. So it's not only Muslims. We don't talk about a state of war. We talk about a state where it is peace and definitely life and property of the non-Muslim also, they are protected. The honor, same thing. So again, as for the hands, do not use them to strike a Muslim, to receive unlawful wealth, to harm any of Allah's most highest creation, to betray a trust of a Muslim, or to ruin something placed in your care. Do not use them. Even to write, do not use them, do not use your hands to write something that is unlawful to say. For indeed the pen is one of the two tongues. Guard your pen from what you must guard your tongue from. In In Arabic poetry, it's basically do not write with the palm of your hand something except that you love to see it on the day of judgment. But it is even preceded by another verse that every writer will die, but whatever he writes will live on. Of course, there is resurrection, but the if you write something, it's going to stay. And this reminds me that it is very silly. People might think that when they delete a file um, from their computer, that it's really deleted for good. No, it stays there. Any professional uh, can dig it, out, and pictures that you delete, professionals can find them. The issue is, don't be silly. Think about the future. The future, and I mean by the future, there are two things: being held accountable on the day of judgment. You could also be held accountable while you are still living, and also do not upload things that you'll be ashamed of. You are now in your, let's say, you are a teenager, you are in your 20s, maybe even older than this, and soon you'll get married and you become a parent, and your children will grow up and they will find out that you have posted all these things online. Why? But let me read the Arabic just in case somebody might be interested in these verses. وما من كاتب إلا سيفنى ويبقي الدهر ما كتبت يداه فلا تكتب بكفك غير شيء يسرك في القيامة أن تراه. Write something that you'll be pleased that you have written on the day of judgment, that will increase your hasanat. Do not write something that will only increase your sayyat. As for the feet, do not use them to walk toward what is unlawful, nor to approach the door of an oppressive ruler. Going to oppressive rulers without necessity or compulsion is a transgression against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for it is a form of humbling yourself before them and honoring them, while Allah Most High has commanded us to stay away from them. It also serves to increase their rank and aid them in their oppression. If it is done in order to seek wealth from them, then it is to aspire to what is forbidden. Verily, the Prophet ﷺ said, two-thirds of a person's faith leaves him if he humbles himself to a righteous, wealthy person to benefit from his wealth. Uh, this is not a hadith. That's the first thing. لا يصح. And there are companions of the Prophet ﷺ. The issue is, do not really humble yourself. Do not humiliate yourself. Okay, to be humble, that's a different probably story. But the idea is humiliating yourself. But it's not about a wealthy person only. The issue is you are a Muslim. Keep your head high. It's not no ostentation also. But the idea is, yeah, and you have another thing. Um, uh, do not generalize about wealthy people. Imam Ghazali included the word. I don't know where he got it, the word Salih, because the text that circulates is without that word. Still, it's not a hadith, لا يصح. But do not generalize in the sense of rulers, wealthy people, and every time you just simply overgeneralize, and you will have a position uh, against the whole category. That should not be the case. أنزلوا الناس منازلهم. It also serves to increase their rank and aid them in their oppression. If it is done in order to seek wealth from them, then it is to aspire to what is forbidden. Verily, the Prophet ﷺ said, this hadith, which is not really a hadith. This statement applies to a wealthy person who is righteous. The this statement that is in circulation does not even mention the word salih. Or what do you think then of a wealthy person who is unjust? Mind you, وهذا في غني صالح فما ظنك بالغني الظالم. In short, the movement and stillness of your limbs are bounties that Allah Most High has bestowed upon you. Do not use these limbs to make the slightest move in disobedience to Him, mighty and majestic. Rather, you should use them in His obedience. Know that if you fall short in this task, you will bear the penalty. Whereby, whereas if you roll up your sleeves and work hard, you will taste the fruit of your efforts. Indeed, Allah has no need of you or your deeds. Rather, every soul is held in pledge for what it does. Take care not to say Allah Most High is all generous, ever merciful. He forgives the sins of transgressors. For this is a truthful statement used wrongly to just simply to justify one's uh, not repenting, not performing the obligations, venturing into that which is haram, etc. The one who does so is to be branded a fool, according to the criteria of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, who said, "The intelligent one is he who takes account of himself and works for what comes after death, and the foolish one is he who follows the inclinations of his self while entertaining false hopes in Allah." سبحانه وتعالى. الكيس من دان نفسه وعمل من بعد الموت والأحمق من أتبع نفسه هواها وتمنى على الله الأماني. Know too that this statement of yours resembles the statement of one who wishes to become a scholar of religious sciences, yet engages in frivolous activities, all the while saying Allah Most High is all generous, ever merciful. He is capable of pouring into my heart the knowledge that He poured into the hearts of His prophets without any effort, reviewing or taking notes. By translating بالبطالة واشتغل بالبطالة into yet engages in frivolous activities, the meaning is that he is not studying. It also resembles the statement of one who desires wealth yet does not engage in farming, commerce, or any gainful occupation. He remains without any employment and says, Truly, Allah is the all generous, and to Him belong the treasure houses of the heavens and earth. He is able to make me come across a treasure which will free me of the need to earn a living, for truly He has done that for some of His slaves. If you heard these two men speaking, you would think them stupid and make fun of them. Remember, Sunnah to recite Surah Al-Kahf every week on Friday, and part of the stories mentioned in the Surah Al-Kahf is the story of the Qarnayn, and it's a story about the cause effect الأخذ بالأسباب ثم أتبع سببا, building on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided him and provided us. Remember the notion that was mentioned: roll up your sleeves, take action, take the concrete steps to fulfill uh, your objectives. So the description of Allah's generosity and power is true. In fact, وإن كان ما وصفه من كرم الله وقدرته حقا وصدقا، وإن كان, even though, I'm just mentioning the Arabic because the translation here, say the translation has the may be true and correct. It's even though. That's a problem of translation. You cannot say that it's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all generous and is all powerful, omniscient, omnipotent. And He is the provider. In the same way, the people of religious insight may deride you when you demand forgiveness while doing nothing at all toward it. For Allah Most High has told you, man will have nothing but what he strives for. And He, mighty and majestic, also says, you are rewarded only for that which you used to do, as well as, verily those who do good are in the gardens of ease. And these three verses are وَأَن لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى, and إِنَّمَا تُجْزَوْنَ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ, and the third one إِنَّ الْأَبْرَارَ لَفِي نَعِيمٍ. If the human being relying on his generosity, on Allah's generosity, the mighty and majestic, does not abandon his efforts in the realms of seeking knowledge and livelihood, likewise, should he not abandon seeking his provision for the next life? Do not be deceived. For verily the Lord of this world and the next is one. He is in both worlds, all generous and ever merciful. His generosity does not increase by his providing for you. Rather, his generosity is only in his facilitating for you your path to reach the everlasting dominion by giving you patience to abandon your sensual desires for a few days. This is the epitome of generosity. So, do not talk yourself into believing the clamor of those who are idle. Rather, follow people of the highest commitment and intelligence. Like set the bar high. The prophets, the truly sincere and the righteous, do not seek to reap that which you have not sown. It is greatly to be hoped that whoever has fasted, prayed, truly struggled and had consciousness of Allah will be forgiven. This, then, is a summary of things from which you must protect your outward limbs. The actions of these outer limbs are the result only of the qualities of the heart. So, if you wish to protect your outward limbs, you must purify your heart, for that is the inner aspect of consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The heart is that morsel of the body which, if sound, the rest of the body by it is sound and whole, and if corrupt, the rest of the body by it is corrupt. So engage in rectifying it, so that you may rectify all your limbs and faculties. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll read it about the sins or sins of the heart. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.